UK needs referendum on ECHR, says Boris Johnson. In an exclusive interview with The Telegraph, the former Prime Minister says there is now a strong case to give the public a say on Britain's membership of the Convention. This is the same former Prime Minister who once told the country this.
All guidance was followed completely during Number 10.
Who supported the campaign to leave the European Union with completely untrue statements like this.
If we take back control on June the 23rd, we can also get rid of so much of the pointless rules and regulations that are holding back this country. This gentleman here mentions bananas. It is absurd that we are told that you cannot sell bananas in bunches of more than 2 or 3 bananas. You cannot sell bananas with abnormal curvature of the fingers.
Whose unready Brexit deal, by almost every economic and financial measure, has been disastrous for the UK.
The Centre for Economic Reform claims the government has lost out on £40 billion in taxes because of the damage done to the country's output by leaving the European Union.
There were figures published just before Christmas, which you probably saw. Brexit has cost the government £40 billion a year in lost tax revenue. What, as a very leading businessman, what has the impact of Brexit been on business generally in the UK?
It's been catastrophic.
In fact, Bloomberg has calculated that the Brexit Johnson backed is costing the UK £100 billion a year in lost output. That's roughly £40 billion less for the new Labour government to invest in the UK. Just think about that. It's £40 billion less to invest in our hospitals and our schools and our public services that we all rely on. And if all that's not bad enough, a study by Durham University has found a primary factor in the skyrocketing number of small boat crossings was the decision to leave the EU without a returns agreement in place. And now this guy has the rank audacity to come crawling out of the woodwork with this: UK needs referendum on ECHR membership. Let's just sit on a shelf for a moment that the European Convention on Human Rights protects our right to a fair trial, freedom of assembly and expression, the right to participate in free elections, freedom of religion, freedom from discrimination, the right to privacy, freedom from torture and degrading treatment. The ECHR has also protected British people from abuses of power by its own government. And leaving the ECHR could result in the UK's trade deal with the EU being terminated because the convention is written into the 2020 Trade and Cooperation Agreement. And if all that's not enough to convince you we should remain, leaving the ECHR would also be a breach of the Good Friday Agreement, which requires that the convention be directly enforceable in Northern Ireland. So please remember this next time Johnson says this: UK needs referendum on ECHR membership. And as for creating our own Bill of Rights, as I've said many times before, that presupposes we can actually trust the party proposing it with our human rights in the first place. And when the Tories were last in power, they repeatedly tried to curtail our human rights under the existing convention we're already a part of. In fact, according to International Human Rights Watch, under the last government, the UK was on course to make the list of countries that abuse rather than protects human rights, thanks to the Conservatives' outright onslaught on the rights of its own citizens. They passed new anti-strike laws designed to rob millions of workers of their democratic right to strike. An Elections Act locked millions of people out of the electoral process. A new law stripped back our right to protest and limited our rights to judicial review.